the city, but I am tired of the same people, of the same things. I want to escape now, to another place now, but with you, 'cause I don't want to be alone. Tell me if you want to follow me now, to follow me. Take me to your arms and never leave me. Don't leave me, boy. Tell me if you want to follow me now, to follow me. Take me to your arms and never leave me. Don't leave me, boy.
Four French drivers at the French Grand Prix trying to win this on the final lap. The three wide again, Guillaume down the inside. Guillaume moves across, they're both in front of Milan and Pouget.
But before you know it, we find ourselves here in the very final race of the competition.
And then they see truck racing and they think, this is crazy, you know, these are 5-ton machines, 1200 horsepower brake.
Oh, look at that switchback. Oh, he's been loved and a terrific go out.
Gregory now, I love it. 16.5 minutes gone. Senna Lanson tries to go for the race lead.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening indeed. Welcome to Chaz Draycott Media, and welcome to another round of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. We're finishing up the first half of our season here at Circuit Nevers Magny-Cours in France, a staple of some of Formula One's calendars in years gone by, but a very interesting circuit to go GT racing at. My name is Chaz Draycott, and I'm delighted to be sharing the commentary box once again with my colleague Ed May. Ed, we've both commentated here on a couple of different series before, namely the Formula One World Championship, which unfortunately went down the pan. But this is looking like a very, very solid night of racing here. There's so many challenges for these drivers to face.
Yeah, it's a wonderful circuit. Thank you very much, Chaz. Great to be here at Magny-Cours, and like you say, it's a very technical circuit, with obviously the first sector being one of the more sweeping corners. Then when you get into the nitty-gritty of the middle sector, you get that hairpin that leads into a few left-right sections, another little hairpin, and quite big heavy braking zones, to be fair, at points around the circuit, which these drivers absolutely love. We saw it last time out at Jerez, where drivers took full advantage of those opportunities to make some excellent moves, and the racing there was top-notch, and I think we might be in for yet another pleasant surprise here tonight.
We absolutely should be. Here's a look at the championship standings at the moment, after, unfortunately, an incident with his teammate and then another pit stop after that. Well, they were coming into the pits when Callum Brandt and his teammate Guy Edwards made contact. Callum has now dropped down the order into third in the championship, and he is 17 points behind Lewis Ward. He went into Jerez a couple of points ahead. Lewis Ward now has a healthy 10-point advantage over Simon Povey. His teammate Dominic Brennan is in fourth, 1 point ahead of Niles Corey, who's been great in that BMW for Chicane Online Racing. James Holman, race winner last time out, projects himself up to sixth. Don't forget, he missed the first round of the season, and James Holman is right up there in the standings. Guy Edwards down there in seventh with Dan McCauley, Rob Sharp and Christian Saruta, who is, of course, sharing the top 10 there in the same position with Rob Sharp, actually on the same amount of points, but it's so close all the way down. Looking at the teams championships as well, it's very close there too. Spontex CDM Esports Scourers top of the pile by just 4 points over Apex Racing Academy. They've only got 10 points over RD Simsport. And again, Ed, even in the teams championship, there's a lot of bragging rights there. There's a lot of teams that all want to beat one another. Certainly a lot to fight for in this series, rather than just the individual drivers championship.
Yeah, definitely. But you can see that consistency is really helping Lewis Ward in the Drivers' Championship. Simon Povey had a bad start to the season. Callum Brandt's just off at the back of a horror show as well. Lewis Ward has been the only driver to just score well and consistently up at the top of the field. And he's getting rewards for it now on account of obviously what happened last time out. Of course, that can all change, providing we see maybe a less than optimal evening in the case of Lewis Ward to maybe balance things out a little bit more. But what great news is it to see at the top of the timing sheets, BMW's going quickly still.
Yeah, absolutely.
The score is absolutely rapid around here.
Christopher Smith doing well as well, up there in sixth position, as James Holman just goes second fastest for RD Simsport. Great spread of drivers up and down the order. We've got Paul Goffin up there inside the top 10 right now as well. He's going well. Jakub Szymanski is back with us in the Spontex CDM Esports machine. He actually overslept last time out, unfortunately, did Jakub. And he missed the previous race at Jerez. Well, it's good to have him back here tonight. We are going to shine a bit of light on Oliver Cowardine as well, who is hidden just behind the McLaren there. I'm going to refresh my liveries. I'm really sorry, because Oliver Cowardine's car should have his decal layer on it. I think maybe because he's not been in the car for a little bit, it's not showing up for me at my end. But we have Oliver returning to the championship. He's raced in the series before. He's raced a lot in the Porsche Club of Great Britain sim racing series, and that's where I first commentated on him from, and that's where a lot of the drivers here come from. But it's that part of the season, Ed. We will not be accepting any new entrants now from this point on, so everybody's locked in. And to be fair, Cowardine's a good addition to the grid. He's been great over the past few seasons.
Yeah, he has been. It's obviously good to see him still out there going strong, but to see him obviously get that consistent level to go, like you say, to the very next step of his development. Keeping a track on James Holman, who is certainly the driver to watch, coming off the back of an excellent result in his first ever race victory in the SRM GT4 Challenge at Jerez. And he's looking to maybe try and keep it 2 on the bounce here, because his time in practice is very quick, just a little bit shy of Niels Core. And we know obviously the strengths of the McLaren is sort of more down to its 1 lap pace, and at the moment they're not quite unlocking it in comparison to the 2 drivers up at the top of the sheets.
No, they're really not. Dominic Brennan here just lapping around the first couple of corners at the minute in the number 212 machine. Reigning champion Lewis Ward is just starting another lap in practice as well. But like you were saying before, Ed, there's a lot of different elements to this circuit. There's tight twisty sections, there's long sweeping sections as well. I really do like this track, and I'm kind of gutted that it's not been on the Formula 1 calendar for quite a while, but still, we get to come racing here on iRacing and virtually at this fantastic venue. It's good to have Rob Sutherland back as well. He wasn't here last week, the team boss of RD Simsport. He's back amongst it. And it's good to have Pete Thickett back as well. Pete's another driver that we unfortunately didn't have with us last week. One of these Scuderia Chicken House cars in that gorgeous livery, designed by his teammate Blaine Sparling, who again isn't here this week. Martin Kenyon's up there in another very beautiful car, the Yorkshire Spirit Racing number 48 Aston Martin Vantage, as he just goes into the hairpin known as Adelaide. A lot of these corners here, Ed, we actually realised together, I think, that they're named after certain corners that are certain parts of other circuits. They're named after the circuit they're taken from, basically. Like this chicane here is called Nürburgring, which is a kind of reverse of one of the fast chicanes.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's obviously good to see that the racing heritage from other circuits is still present in this one here at Magny-Cours. So there are elements, of course, that link them all together, not just with the nomenclature, but also with the actual shape of the corners and the sections. I'm just so interested to see what's going to happen in qualifying. Are the McLarens going to finally get that pace back in them, or is it actually going to be a case of, well, business as usual, at least if this practice session's anything to be believed, with Niels Kor right at the top there.
Lewis Ward has just gone 1,000th of a second faster than James Holman. But as we see there, something I was going to bring up, that Aidan Millward, great to see you Aidan, hope you're doing well, in the chat has pointed out that the track limits around here into Turn 1 is certainly, well, one that raises eyebrows, let's say. The drivers have a lot to play with out there, and it really widens that start-finish straight even more than it normally is. Now here's one of our championship sponsors, by the way, Drew Fletcher, behind Derbyshire Holiday Homes. It's great to have so many sponsors on board. I think Drew's just throwing his wheel around now, knowing that the session is over, actually. He's getting his airtime in and showing off, I think. But we've got a great array of sponsors that you will see in the top right of your screen. Orris Digital, Crockery Direct, Blinds to Go, Derbyshire Holiday Homes and Mydas Simulations. We send our thanks to each and every one of them. And, of course, love having them on board as a part of this championship. It's going to go quiet now, and it's going to chill out for just a moment as qualifying now ticks over. You'll see all the grandstands, the weather, everything just suddenly flick. And even the circuit itself sort of re-rendering a lot of that rubber that was put down in practice there. And now we'll get the field leaving the pit lane. Let's see if we get a better shot of it from this end. You can see them all now peeling out one by one as they go further down. And this is the time when you've got to really focus here, Ed, to make sure that you get some, well, clear air on track and suddenly just, I don't know, maybe try and bring a bit of teamwork into the equation. What do you reckon, this early stage of quali?
I think at the early stage of qualifying, it's just about going out there and getting the laps in, get the bankers in before you do anything too clever with it. You've got to obviously get the laps nailed down, and then maybe you can try and help each other out if you're just missing a few tenths here and there. But from my experience in this championship, it was always one that me and Andy Hopley would sort of go out, do a few laps by ourselves, get them sorted out, and then that's where, like in the later half of the session, was when we'd try and work together to maybe get a couple of extra tenths and see if we could secure pole position. Obviously, here with the slightly revised format from season 1, the qualifying sessions are quite a lot shorter than they used to be, aren't they, Chaz? So the drivers don't really have the luxury of time to play with.
Just like that as well. As, oh, dearie me. There's a spin for Drew Fletcher, and Mark Johnson has gone into the side of him. Drew's jumped out of the way. Just saw for a moment there, in amongst all that, Oliver Carwadine in his privateer BMW, and clearly I haven't put his livery in the right place, or his decal layer for some reason at my end. It hasn't shown up, so clearly I'm an idiot. I'll figure it out. We'll give it another refresh. I love the livery though, the old Parmalat machine, looking very tasty. Cars will be white for a little bit, but look, once again, Ed, the Apex Racing Academy drivers have done their usual thing here, and they've gone out very, very late in the session to get some clear air away from the others. Although, actually, no. Oh no, Dan has right in front of him, but for some reason it's showing up with Dan in Andy Marston's livery for a moment. There we go, it's now changed over. This happens sometimes as it cycles through the liveries and applies them to the cars. So it does apply other ones. But yeah, Dan McCauley and Lewis Ward together on track now, hoping to go for that team's championship. And at the end of the day, why not when your main driver, no offence to Dan, but obviously Lewis Ward leading the championship, he is reigning champion at the moment. Certainly doable for them, isn't it, with their current pace and capability? Although I say that.
Ooh, dearie me. Well, that's what happens when it doesn't go quite to plan.
Commentator's curse.
Yeah, exactly. It struck very quickly there for you this time. It's usually the other way around, but here we go. Now I can see just one of the Orris Digital cars through the hairpin now. Not sure if he's on a flying lap or if he's just about still trying to get heat into those tyres. What is the track temperature like?
We'll bring up the weather, shall we, on the right hand side. It's 50 degrees Celsius. That's very hot for Magny-Cours, actually. Very hot indeed. I mean, at Jerez last time round, I mean, it was over 51 degrees in most cases. But wow, that is ridiculously hot. We've got Niles Corr and James Holman both on fast laps at the moment. And look, they are together on the circuit. Two of the guys sort of painting the path for the front of the field. But we'll have to see what the pace is like from these two in the early stages, I guess, because it's easy to set a lap early on and then try and push too hard to try and beat it in the later stages. So around the final couple of corners they go. Niles Corr flinging it over the curbs, all of the track limits on the right hand side, and as they go through, it's Holman that goes fastest by just about 1.5 tenths of a second. Paul Goff in third, a second off these guys. We've got a car off the road, which is Fausto Pinto in the Scalant Pro driving machine. Carwadine puts his first lap of the season in. Now his decal layer works, as he now sits in fourth position. Mayer goes across the line. Kim Such 4 seconds off the pace there. Kim will be wanting to improve on that. Dominic Brennan has crossed the line, but I don't think he's done a valid lap time. But like you say, Ed, having a shorter session puts a bit more pressure on these drivers, doesn't it? It's a different kettle of fish than it was in the past.
Yeah, it just shows how difficult it is for the drivers. I definitely think that track temperature is playing into the hands of, well, pretty much everyone isn't in a McLaren at the moment. This is looking very good for the Porsche and BMW. James Holman up in front ahead of Niles Corr by a decent margin as well around here. You can see the gap down from second to third. It's just, I think that a lot of the quick McLaren runners are struggling to get their laps in.
Yeah, it's crazy to only see 8 and make that 9 times on the board after that first batch of laps. Here they go, they're coming in now. We've got Josh Wiggins back with us as well tonight. It's good to see Josh back on the grid. He was quite exciting to watch back at Mid-Ohio right at the start of the season. Seems like forever ago now that we did Mid-Ohio. Of course, the first couple of rounds of the championship were spread apart by 2 weeks at a time. They were fortnightly, and now we're going weekly all the way to the end of the season. Niles Corr on another purple sector in the middle of his lap, but nothing at the moment in terms of the first sector. Here's Lewis Ward just coming down to finish his lap. What's it going to look like for him? Can't see any purple sectors or anything coming through from Lewis. Look how much curb they're having to take there. It's crazy. Niles Corr does improve. 42 thousandths ahead of James Holman. The two of them still together on track. Lewis Ward has crossed the line, but I think that was just his outlap. And still, we only have 12 cars, now 13, setting lap times at the moment, Ed. It's crazy to think there's not that many doing laps.
Yeah, it's a bit bonkers, but that's just how this circuit is. Like you say, Aidan Miller pinned out absolutely brilliantly in the YouTube chat, is that track limits are absolutely the killer around here, and with the shorter session length, it is just absolute murder.
Yeah, it can be a real test of drivers' capability. And right now, Lewis Ward is going to be hoping to get right up there near the top of the pile. We've got 17 laps on the board now. Andy Marston is currently 17th. Hopefully Philip Hopley has a bit of a better week this week. He had real connection issues for not even just Jerez, but the round before that as well. So fingers crossed the Waterside Gym e-racing machine has a better time of it here at Magny-Cours in Francais. Ben Gregory improves. Good to see Ben back once again, continuing to push. He said that he hated Jerez and he didn't like driving the track, or he wasn't very good at it, and I think he was tied biggest mover in the field with Fausto Pinto, wasn't he, Ed?
Yeah, he was but then when we asked him, obviously, after the race, if he's, changed his feelings about the circuit, he quite quickly shut us down and said, nope, he still hates it. And maybe he's not going to be too much in love with Magny-Cours if he has a few more moments like that. But currently up inside the top 10, so it's not bad going for Ben, as we have James Holman coming to the end of his lap. Where will this put the Porsche driver who's currently chasing that pole position? Look at him over the curbs, really attacking hard as Dan McCauley goes up into second place. James Holman, he crosses the line. Has he been able to improve? No, he hasn't. But Dan McCauley, that is a really good lap time now, and he's starting to turn the screw a little bit, find the pace in that McLaren.
Look at that, the top 4 separated by 53 thousandths of a second. It's incredibly close between the top guys. And then there's 7/10 of a second back to Christopher Smith. That's now changed because Dominic Brennan and Christopher Smith both improving on their laps. No Simon Povey tonight, though, it seems, for this evening's race, which is a massive, massive shame. Something I hadn't even picked up on until just now. But Simon unable to make this latest round of the series. He did message me, actually, a while ago about it, and I can't remember exactly what he said, but I'll find out. Oh yeah, he says he's solo parenting this week because Laura's at Goodwood, bless her, and he says there's no way that I can get him down in time and still race. And yeah, obviously needs to make sure he's around for the little ones. So we hope you're having a wonderful evening, Simon. Either way, we hope that he's watching. I want to point out, Ed, that, you know, meaning no disrespect to any drivers, but we've got a... Oh, goodness me, Dominic. We've got a bit of a shaken up order here. We've got Paul Goffin doing a good job up there in 8th place, but Heinz and Ralph Mayer both inside the top 10 right now. Ferrari's racing green and purple.
Say,
going
in the
great.
Top 10, they're both equally in pace again.
I know.
Look at them. They can't escape one another. I've seen it every single round of this championship. Well, I think nearly every single round. I'm not sure if it has happened to everyone, but wherever they seem to be in the races, it's always either one ahead of the other, and I'm trying to keep track of them. And to be fair, it feels like one race Heinz is in front, and then the next race Ralph is the one in front, and it's just so intriguing to see them. No matter which circuit they go to, you think, oh, one track might favour one driver a little bit more, but no, they're both just equally matched on pace, which is brilliant.
It's very, very entertaining indeed. Tom Weston going well. He's up there in 11th place as well. Simon Povey and 11th Racing both in the YouTube chat saying that they're not watching tonight, so fair play. Sorry, boys. Rob Sharp up there in the top 10 once again. He's behind Christopher Smith at the moment, another one of the BMWs, but look at the difference in how much curb some of them take over the first curb and then not the second, although Rob's going to put it in the barrier. Oh, heck. Pushing a little bit too hard there. Ryan Penny just in the background about to cross the line. He goes up to 10th place now. Big improvement by Ryan, and unbelievably he splits the two Mayers, and it's usually Ryan that's battling the two of them. Last season it was a bit of a meme actually that Ryan was constantly being hounded by at least one of them on the circuit, and now yet again he finds himself sandwiched in the middle. He's the third part to this meme. So
one thing I've just noticed as well, Chaz, I just saw it as we were watching Ryan Penny, but something that's really important to note is the pit exit around here. It was at the a very recent round of the virtual bell car that I was commentating on, where one of the front runners just ran a little bit sort of too tight to the inside line. You can see the way that the circuit is. It sort of invites the drivers to push hard, and if you turn in that a little bit too early, if you dip wheels past that white line, that's it. You have to have what iRacing gives you is basically like a stop and go penalty. Essentially, it's very, very strict, and it's something that I think might be quite important later on in the race as the drivers do push a little bit harder.
Yeah,
and maybe aren't quite aware of where the white lines are.
Yeah, it's very narrow as well around that part of the circuit, isn't it? So you've not really got much to play with. At the moment, we've got Niles Core fastest in the BMW for Chicane Online Racing. Dan McCauley second for Apex Racing Academy. James Holman in third for RD Simsport. And then Lewis Ward, championship leader and reigning champion, fourth place at the moment. Dominic Brennan just behind these guys. Then Christopher Smith in the BMW. Then a Porsche of Rob Sharp. Great mix of cars up there, actually, near the sharp end of the order. We don't have Callum Brandt this week either. That's another important point. So the two championship challenges for Lewis Ward are not here at this moment in time. So a big change is coming our way in the championship, and a big gap is sure to open up so long as Lewis Ward has a usually good evening that he tends to have in this championship. But it's nice to see the different manufacturers up there. The Aston Martins have been seen as a bit of the bogey car at the moment, but Martin Kenyon doing it justice in 13th place at the minute. He's doing his best. John Roberts is about to improve in the Mercedes as well. Highest placed Mercedes at the moment, Tom Weston. Can John beat that as he comes around the final corner? It was a little bit tight through the right-hander down at Complex de Lycée. And he does improve, does John, goes up to 20th position.
Yeah, I'm absolutely loving the progression as well of Martin Kenyon, who really struggled at Mid-Ohio in the opening round, and to have that level of pace, to be up in 12th place, 13th place rather, it's incredibly good going. And it's so nice to see that livery high up the field, because we saw it at Mid-Ohio languishing at the back, and I was just hoping and praying that we could see it up towards that top 10 fight, and it's great to see Martin finally getting some pace back beneath him.
Well, I mean, one thing to remember is that Martin started, well, he was mainly an oval racer, and then he started with the Formula One World Championship in open wheelers, and then got into GT racing, and then started a lot more even in, I think, a few touring cars as well. He's just constantly getting better and better as Martin. As Zodiri Meatben's gone sideways to show us the glorious colour scheme on his number 113 McLaren. But
improvement for Nils Kor, Chaz.
Yes.
Who's gone that little bit quicker out at the front of the field to extend his gap to over a tenth of a second. It was getting dangerously close at one point, but he's managed to find an extra tenth there. So that's going to be a bit more comforting for him as we enter the final 2 minutes of this qualifying session. And these are the sort of corners that the BMW is going to absolutely love in these hot temperatures. Understood normally anyway, but everyone else around him will be having that same issue. But where the BMW is really strong is the acceleration out of the corners, which is one thing the other cars do not have. So while the hot temperatures certainly don't help the BMW, they hurt the other cars a lot more, while still retaining the strengths of the BMW, which is that straight line speed and just to get up and go out of the corners.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting, isn't it, that they have these strengths and weaknesses. Look at the field now, just streaming their way through the final chicanes. There's Martin Kenyon across the line. You'll literally see the cars crossing the line as the timing at the bottom scrolls through as well. Mark Johnson's going to be the next car around in the Aston Martin. It's a circuit I've never visited, Magny-Cours. I was supposed to go there last year with Clio Cup Europe, and unfortunately didn't make the trip out because SRO were already there, so they already had a commentator on site for it. But it's a circuit that I would love to go to. James Holman's done a purple first sector here, and he's just about to come around the final couple of corners. Is that middle sector going to let him down though, Ed? Let's find out with 30 seconds left on the clock.
We'll have a look here. His last lap, it was a purple middle sector, so this was why it wasn't quite purple this time around, but still, he's improved up into second place, ahead of the McLaren of Dan McCauley, but still not enough to best the time set by Nils Kor. But he has one last attempt, and this is it. He can't afford any mistakes from now up until the line if he wants to take pole position away from the BMW that is just ahead of him. Actually, Nils Kor just a little bit further up the road. In fact, I think actually James Holman is getting a toe off of his rival.
I think he... Oh, Niels has actually moved out of the way.
Very clever by Niels. He saw that he was maybe struggling to improve on this lap, so decided, I'm not going to go around and help out my main rival for pole position. I'm going to pull over and just see what he can do by himself, which is, I mean, excellent. As we see now, Pete Thickett for Scuderia Chicken House. Good to have him back. He missed out last time, didn't he? He wasn't there on the grid at Jerez, so good to see him going still strong up inside the top 10 as Guy Edwards goes up into 9th place, highest position Mercedes. So it's currently RD Simsport 2 occupying spots inside the top 10. James Holman obviously, like you say, missing his teammate, and that could have a bigger impact in the team's championship, because Apex Race Academy rather have both of their drivers present.
They absolutely do. It can all change in one evening, and obviously real life comes first. We understand that, and we will not be making fun of that at all. It's, at the end of the day, this is a hobby to a lot of us, and we do it for the enjoyment of it. We're not going to, well, I was going to say we're not going to penalise people for not being able to make it, but there are no drop rounds in this championship. Drew Fletcher crosses the line, bit of damage on his McLaren as Nils Kor rounds the final corner and comes into the pit lane to end his session. Who's next up to cross the line? Oliver Carwadine is about to come down the hill into the final couple of corners. Christopher Smith's just overtaken him though. No personal best from either of these guys, and it says to me that Oliver Carwadine is not on a lap. Christopher Smith, he's pushing on at least. He's trying to get something out of the final sector, at least in the BMW. Crosses the line, but it is a 1:46.845 and his best is a 1:46.2. Fausto Pinto hasn't got a lap on the board yet, so he needs to make this one count. Let's see whether he can get this one to work.
Very gingerly through that final chicane.
And it's not a valid time.
He's not put a time in at all, dearie me. So Fausto Pinto started from the back. We know he's got a lot more pace in the tank than, well, P27.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be interesting to see him come up through the field. It's a lovely livery, isn't it? That's Gallant Pro driving Aston Martin. Maybe we'll be getting a few more shots of it, carving his way through the field on a circuit that is necessarily not the easiest to make overtakes happen.
No, it really isn't. There's a lot of fast sweeping corners and hard braking zones that really do require a lot of commitment from a driver, and you will see people overdoing it tonight and potential contact. But for those of you that's obviously watching for the first time, it's a 1 hour race here in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. The cars are limited to 40% of their usual fuel tank, so we will see usually 2 pit stops, 1 long one and 1 short one. Niles Core takes pole position and a championship point in the BMW. He's alongside James Holman. Dan Macaulay and Lewis Ward make it an all Apex Racing Academy row 2 with Dominic Brennan and Christopher Smith behind. Rob Sharp and Pete Thickett line up on row 4, ahead of Guy Edwards and Paul Goffin, who round out your top 10. Heinz Mayer and Ryan Penny, 11th and 12th. Great qualifying by those guys. And Ralph Mayer as well, ahead of Tom Weston. Both those two on row 7. Martin Kenyon next up with Mark Johnson alongside him. Then it's Ben Gregory and Josh Wiggins on row 9. Kim Such and John Roberts round out the top 20. Then we have Oliver Carwadine in 21st, Rob Sutherland 22nd, Drew Fletcher's 23rd alongside Philip Hopley on row 12, and they're ahead of Jakub Szymanski, Andy Marston, and Fausto Pinto, who we were just talking about there, not able to get a lap on the board just yet. So it's a rolling start in this championship, Ed, and once again, they've been given a full pace lap. I'm damn sure that I chose the short one for these guys, so they didn't have to do the full lap, but now it seems that they do. So they're going to absolutely adore me having to do this full lap all the way around the circuit, because this is going to feel like quite a while, doesn't it?
Yeah, it will do, but on the bright side, it gives them plenty of time to get heat into the tyres, but like we saw with a 50-degree track, it's not going to take a lot of effort to get those tyres up to temperature. In fact, they might be overheating by the time they get started here tonight, but like you say, it's a little bit tricky sometimes with iRacing when you have to set everything up, and I think with these newer tracks, I'm not sure if they actually give you the option to have a short pace lap.
I think sometimes they do, but I'm not sure actually. We'll have to wait and see, I guess. Infinity Dave in the chat. Good to see you, mate. That is Dave Waldock, who will be taking part in the upcoming British Boring Car Championship. The British Boring Car Championship is coming back to Chaz Draycott Media with the glorious Volkswagen Jetta TDI Cup cars in the old 1990s Super Touring liveries. The grids have got bigger from 16 cars to 24 cars for this season, and we've got a great array of talent coming up. There is going to be the random team draw and a bit of pre-season testing going on just over a week away on the 19th of July, next Wednesday. But one of the main things people need to keep an eye on this channel, of course, Ed, is tomorrow's big event, which is going to be the finale of the CDM Formula One World Championship by F1Countdown.com.
Yeah, where the championship gap is down to just 8 points, and we saw an 8-point swing, didn't we, in the favour of maybe the second favourite for the crown, Jake Cranston, who's been chasing and closing back the advantage to, as ever, how have I forgotten his name? Oh my god, I am absolutely terrible.
Jake Cranston.
No, it's Jake Cranston chasing down
Cam Dance.
Cam Dance. Oh my word, I am absolutely awful. I'm very sorry, Cam, if you're watching.
He's going to kill you.
He is.
I mean, it'll take him a long time because of his ping, but he will kill you.
Yeah, I mean, he's actually going to get a flight over from New Zealand. See, I remembered he's New Zealand, not Australian, because he would have definitely killed me.
Oh yeah,
if I got that wrong. Regardless, though, is certainly one to watch out for and look forward to when we go to Suzuka tomorrow. I'm just so excited because how many times have we seen drama in the real world Formula One Championship at Suzuka with the championship, right down to the wire.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, even last season, it was a dramatic final race of the season, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they can muster up there. But tonight, I mean, this circuit is going to throw so much at these drivers. The cars are so different near the front of the pack as well. The BMW, the Porsche, and the McLaren, they are all different in size and dimensions and engine configurations, and that's one thing I love about GT racing. We're going to see these cars come into and drop out of their real operating windows, let's say, in the first couple of laps of this race, based on how the traffic is and how the driver's mentality is as well. And this is a circuit where there's no rest. That's the main thing. Even when you're going down towards Adelaide at the hairpin, there is no rest on this track, is there? You have to be thinking all the time.
Yeah, you cannot take your eyes off the road for 1 second around here because the corners do come at you pretty thick and fast. And like you say, there's no real straight that you can take your mind on things, take your hands off the wheel to give them a stretch. The only time when the drivers do get any respite is in the pits. But even then, they're going to be watching and keeping aware of the relatives, the drivers that are maybe ahead of them, maybe behind them. If they're out of sync, they're going to be just daring at that time coming down as they're sat stationary. 2 pit stops are expected at this race here tonight, but of course, plenty of corners do give drivers opportunities to save fuel and maybe try alternative strategies.
Yeah, we've seen it before. The main man that does it is usually, well, Christopher Smith is behind a lot of it, but Callum Brandt has tried to make it work a couple of times in this championship's history. He did it at the very first round of the season, and of course won the race from 9th on the grid. But still, it's his teammate that's 9th at the moment, Guy Edwards, all the way back there on the grid, just inside the top 10. But I'm happy to say that as they come out of the final corner, round 5 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge from Magny-Cours is underway, and well, Niles Core made that one work. It's not the easiest place to get a rolling start going, but the German has flown away from the front, and Dan McCauley has gone down the inside of James Holman into 2nd place. Lewis Ward's gone down the inside of him into 3rd, and there's an off in the background. And Paul Goffin was around in all of that. Tom Weston's off, Mark Johnson's off as well. There's cars on the other side of the circuit off. That is Ralph Mayer. Tim Such is involved in that as well. And there's Josh Wiggins off the circuit with him. Paul Goffin's car, I saw, was off the circuit and then back on again. But big dramas near the back of the pack, Ed.
Yeah, oh, look at this. James Holman has been able to fend off Lewis Ward, but in turn has got so much more company in behind. He's got Dominic Brennan that was looking for a little bit of a move, as was Christopher Smith. Lewis Ward has dropped back throughout all of that. Not just 1, but 2 positions now down into 6th. It's not going to be the end of the world because he hasn't got any championship rivals necessarily ahead of him, but it's certainly positions he could do without losing. He needs to maximise the chance here tonight while his main rivals are away.
Oh no.
Yes, though, Niels Core, he's had an absolute dream start. Oh my word, I thought for a moment I'd cursed Lewis Ward even worse with seeing the Apex Race Academy car stricken, but it was Dan McCauley, the driver, in strife, as Mark Johnson has had a moment as well. It's all kicking off here in the opening lap here at Magny-Cours, but not for this man. Niels Core has had a dream getaway and has been able to open out a gap to James Holman as Dominic Brennan's actually bringing on a bit of a charge, and he's going to have the inside line now in towards the hairpin, but he's not going to go for the move. He's going to back out and realise it's not worth fighting. He doesn't want to let Niels Core get too far away.
Just realised of a really bad pun that we can make. Oh, goodness me. I've just, more focused on the fact that Rob Sharp's nearly planted into the barrier as Guy Edwards goes through. Started 9th on the grid, now up to 6th. He's having a really good start to the race. Martin Kenyon having one of his usual good starts as well. Rob Sutherland has gained 9 places from 24th on the grid up to 13th. John Roberts has gained 6 as well. Drew Fletcher, Philip Hopley, Jakub Szymanski, they've all gained 5. We'll have a look at that initial incident in a moment. But how have we not thought about the paper headline if Niles wins this race? Magny-Cours. You're welcome.
Core, blimey, that's a good one.
Let's have a look at this onboard Christopher Smith here, because this is going to be focusing for where he is with some of these heavy braking zones that they have to deal with on this circuit. Not sure why it's chosen not to illuminate his mirror, but for some reason it's completely blacked out on mine. I've got them all turned on, so apologies everyone. Not sure why we don't get a mirror view anymore, but
I think it's something to do with when you're a spectator, you don't get the same graphical fidelity as you do when you're in the sim, which for some weird reason...
I've had them before though. Even like the last round of the series we had them, so... I did change some graphics settings though, so I'm not sure if it's ticked one, like, taken one mirror off.
It's not showing up for me either, and I've got mine turned up pretty high as well, so... interesting is I think John Roberts might have a slowdown here. He's letting, near enough, the whole world go by up the inside. And back up to pace, so it looked to me like there could have been a potential slowdown penalty for the boosted motorsport driver. Let's have a look here.
Just trying to get an idea of what happened to the likes of Paul Goffin, who was further up the order. Who's he next to there?
I think Paul Goffin was the one that we saw spin across the face of the circuit, wasn't it?
Ah, yeah. It's loads of them have just overdone it, and Ralph hits him, Josh Wiggins hits him, then loses it on the grass. 2 of the Orris Digital cars lose it, and the 3 that we had on the right-hand side were all just going about their business in their own way. Mark Johnson's there in the dark blue Aston Martin. There is more drama after this, actually, because Mark had a very damaged car, although I don't know if he's already got it and he's hit the back of somebody. No.
It was at the front end, so maybe he outbroke himself into potentially the rear end of Ben Gregory.
It all checks up.
Big check-up, isn't it? Massive. And then he's still carrying on. Front end, fine as it is, maybe he picks up the front end damage going into one of the barriers around here.
Yeah, it must do, because this is where it went off.
One, as we see this corner here. Oh, it just over-rotates on the way in.
Yeah.
That's really uncharacteristic for that car, because it's usually quite understeery, but it just... Does he dip a wheel or something onto a curb as he turns in? Because it just... You can see it slides very early into the corner.
Yeah, it was like when he changed down, it suddenly went crazy, didn't it? This is... Jakub Szymanski into the back of Philip Hopley. Josh Wiggins hits the pair of them.
He just gets completely compressed. There's no way the car can go. He gets the hit from in front, at the same time as I think he gets a bit of a tag from behind, and there's just nowhere that car's going to go.
Yeah, it's a big shame, but part of the racing, unfortunately, when you're in such a big pack like this, and it does check up on a track like this, so it's catching people off guard by the look of it. And I mean, look at that, even there. Looks like a scary moment from where I'm sitting for Lewis Ward closing in on Christopher Smith. Look at that McLaren over the curbs. It can't take curbs like the other cars at all. I mean, the BMW and the Mercedes do it very well, and Niles Core is using that to his advantage. He's done the fastest lap of the race once again, and the German has been great fun to watch, and he carries on with these awesome performances right at the front of the field. And right now he's ahead of James Holman. It's great to see the new talents coming into the championship and doing well straight off the bat, isn't it, Ed? I love this. It's been a real cool turnaround this season.
It's been brilliant. It's been absolutely wonderful to see so many drivers up there now fighting for race victories. Before, when we had it in season 1, a lot of the time it was myself, Mark Baxter Jones and Simon Povey out there tussling for the win. Then obviously in season 2 we had this man Lewis Ward fighting for victories. We had Simon Povey up there as well, Callum Brandt going for it. Now I think we've still only had 3 different drivers win a race. I can't remember if Simon's actually won a race so far this season. Should I tell a lie? I think he won Daytona. Memory serves right.
I believe
so. I think we have now had 4 different drivers win, which I think is actually tied for the most we've ever had in a season. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think so, yeah. I'll check the figures on that. We've just unfortunately had a bit of drama here with Kim Such and Jakub Szymanski. So Kim got past him coming into the later stages of the lap. Kim's car already damaged after the incident down at turn 1. Now Jakub said earlier he's been having a few issues with his VR, really screen tearing at the moment, so hopefully nothing caused by that here. Following. Kim's on the brakes. Oh, is he just going to lose it? I'm not sure. The 2 of them came together. Way after that. Oh no, Kim's just touched the grass. Oh, the 2 of them go piling in. Kim bounces off the side of Jakub. That must have hurt.
Jakub can't catch a break, can he?
No, he absolutely cannot.
A lot of damage there as well. I'm not sure if the car's crabbing at all or damage too significant, but he's been an innocent bystander really in both of the incidents that we've seen him involved in, which is just a crying shame. But sometimes when it's not your night, it just really is not your night. And I think iRacing's doing its best to maybe punish him for oversleeping last time out.
It's not Paul Goffin's night either. He's had another nightmare down at turn 1. He comes back on the circuit. The back of that McLaren's taken a hit at some point as well. As he now continues, he's had a number of offs already over the course of this race. So it really is throwing up some interesting conditions for the drivers tonight. This is John Roberts with Drew Fletcher nearly picking up the back end of the Mercedes. Drew wrangles the McLaren out of the corner. Great battling going on all through the field though, but just to quickly recap it then, we've got Niles Core in the BMW leading the way, James Holman in the Porsche in 2nd place, then it's Dominic Brennan in the McLaren in 3rd, Christopher Smith is 4th ahead of Guy Edwards, his stablemate Lewis Ward in 6th, Rob Sharp 7th, Pete Thickett 8th doing the doing their thing for Porsches in a quartet, actually, followed by Heinz Mayer and then Ryan Penny. Those two having a fantastic race tonight. They're both inside the top 10. Really loving life. Dan McCauley's behind them. He's gone past Martin Kenyon just recently. I actually want to have a look back and see what Dan McCauley's issue was there, Ed, because it's very... I was going to say it's unlike Dan. He's had a few little mistakes so far this season, but not this early on. Oh, it's just on the change down.
It just goes slightly offline as well. It's slightly offline. I think he puts a bit too much steering lock on to try and recover it. Like you say, it's just at the moment mid-corner, but sometimes I think the McLaren is rather prone to it. If you put in just a little bit too much steering lock, the car does respond in, well, that same fashion that we just saw Dan McCauley suffering. Maybe the tyres, again, not necessarily up into the right window, but I think it's just a combination of onto the sort of offline part of the circuit, the dirty rubber, and then just combined with putting too much steering lock on to try and correct it. It just went on him.
Yeah, it's a big shame that it's gone that way, but like I say, part of the racing, wrangling these things about. Martin Kenyon now just behind him. Rob Sutherland's then got Ben Gregory behind him. These two came together earlier on in the season. Oh, Rob's gone a little bit deep into the hairpin, but look at the slingshot he's going to get off there. It's a bit of a weird corner for that. You can make a mistake, and then all of a sudden, the car can get a horrendously powerful run on the exit as well. And you can sort of, I don't know, slightly benefit from making a mistake. It lets you get away with it, as I say.
It's a corner that you can take multiple lines through. Like you said, you can sort of either turn the corner into what we like to call sort of like a later U shape, so you go for the later apex and you get the car straightened out as early as possible through the corner, so you can spend more time basically just straight going for it. But you can sort of V the corner off, where you take a lot of speed in, get it slowed down on the apex, get the rotation done quickly, and then go. So there's a lot of different lines that you can take into those corners. I think there's a few circuits like that where different lines can work themselves out brilliantly. I think Daytona's one of them, actually, at the first hairpin, and actually at the second as well, where you can see drivers trying different strategies. I'm more for one that tries to V the corner off, but I know plenty of drivers that prefer to sort of, what we call do it like as a U rather than a V.
Yeah, definitely. There's a few corners around the world, isn't there, where if you do go in a little bit hot, you could sort of make use of the run out of them, but it's...
I think Donington Park's one like that as well, actually.
Yes, yeah, absolutely is. I've raced that a lot on a set of Corsa Competizione and usually been dive bombed by either Dan McCauley or my brother, and then obviously run wide and then got on the power on the exit as it all gets a little bit scrappy there between Philip Hopley, Josh Wiggins and Andy Marston. The latter now side by side as Andy's down the inside into turn one. Gives up the place, so lets Josh go through. Don't forget you get championship points anywhere down to 20th position in this series. So Fausto Pinto, after going from the back of the grid, has made his way up into 20th place and is doing everything he needs to do right now for at least a championship point out of tonight. Pete Thickett's coming under pressure here from Heinz Mayer. Heinz is a man possessed this evening. Him and Ryan Penny both going very strongly inside that top 10. Great pace from these guys. They did wonder whether the Porsche was going to be good here tonight, but I'm not putting it all completely down to that. It's a circuit that isn't just down to how good a car is, this one, because like we've said many a time, it's a real tricky little sod. So as a driver, you have to be properly switched on for the evening. And again, it's one of those circuits that only certain drivers will get on with, isn't it, Ed? It's hard to get this one right all of the time. It doesn't suit certain driving styles.
Yeah, it's a combination of factors as well. Another factor I think that you might have missed out is just the heat of the track, because we saw it at Jerez that the McLarens really don't enjoy when the circuit's hot, because they already chew through the tyres bad enough as it is. And I think the McLaren drivers are having to maybe back off a little bit with their pace to keep themselves in with a fight, as well as just maybe losing a little bit of the overall pace in the car, because that car's quite pointy, and I think the pointy car is affected more by the hot temperatures than their car that's naturally a little bit understeery. So that's something I think to focus on, and the reason why we are seeing almost a repeat of Jerez in the case of James Holman and Niels Cole with plenty of pace. Even Christopher Smith, he wasn't necessarily setting timing sheets ablaze last time out, but he's a driver that, like you say, is really, I think, suited to this circuit. He's currently up into 4th place, but could quite easily get a podium, maybe even better onto the top step, because we can already see that the pace is there in one BMW. and we know the strategies that Christopher Smith likes to employ, so not necessarily a foregone conclusion of it being either Niels Core or James Holman that will be likely taking the victory.
Yeah, for sure. It's certainly nice to see a difference in the cars, at least every so often. You know, for the last few seasons, the faster guys at the top end of the field have chosen the McLaren, but obviously mentioned the fact that it's got this horrendous ability to just shred its tyres. And these guys aren't really losing Niels Core at this point. That intrigues me. The gap has got to about 2.5, 2.6 seconds, and it's stayed there. So it's almost like these guys have adapted a bit more to the surface and how it's behaving and the temperature of it. And now they're just, I don't know, staying with him. Because look, all the top 3, top 4, all within 146.4s. And then Lewis Ward 146.1. Guy Edwards has fallen away a little bit on that lap. But I tell you what, it's not looking too bad, is it, right now, for any of these guys near the top of the order for a potential good result. As more battling further down. Goffin, Pinto and Wiggins. As Wiggins, oh, lovely cutback down the right-hand side of the Aston Martin and the McLaren. It looks like he's going to get 2 for 1 here, Ed.
He might be able to if he can just hang on for a little bit. Fausto Pinto, he's had a good race so far, but might be losing out on this occasion as Josh Wiggins dives up the inside, runs a little bit deep, but it's just enough that Fausto cannot get a cut back. Try and fight it. Oh, what has gone on here to Christopher Smith? What's happened to Lewis Ward? Oh my word, we were just talking about the pace of Christopher Smith and the fact that he could be on track for a podium or even more, and then it's just Lewis Ward completely messing up, running into the back of him. You can see him stopping on the exit of the corner, giving back the position. Now this is Rob Sharp. We'll see him arrive at the scene. Goes into the, oh dearie me.
Oh yeah. Not the best by Christopher Smith, but in his defence, I know from on board that would have looked like he was already sat on the apex. That would not have looked like he was as far away from the apex as he was. I think most people would have pulled forward in that scenario rather than reversing, because where that would have looked like he was from his on board would have felt like going forward was the best option. We'll have a look at it, because even from this wider angle, like, it looks like you're on the curb almost, and I don't know. Actually,
I think from his cockpit view, because he sits a little bit lower in the car as well, it's difficult to see when you roll back. You don't necessarily see the red and white curve that we do from our sort of slightly more elevated camera position in that right-hand side seat. So for me, I think it is, like you say, it's a case of not really knowing that he was too close to it, but it's more, I think all of that comes down, sadly, to Lewis Ward just making that mistake, wasn't it? Just too late on the brakes, and maybe that's a sign that the car doesn't have the grip. The tyres are already starting to fade away for the McLaren, and I mean, certainly that incident hasn't helped them at all for Lewis, but I can tell you, it's certainly not just because he's washed up and he's not great talent, but he's just struggling because the car is starting to not play ball. When you're about 15 or so minutes into a stint in the McLaren, it becomes very noticeable. It was actually in the first race ever in the SRM GT4 Challenge when I was in the McLaren. It was at Road Atlanta, I believe. Yeah. We had similar track temperatures, got very, very hot. And while I could just about keep up with the front runners, Mark Baxter Jones and Simon Povey, over one lap, when it got down to actually the strategy, I just couldn't keep up with them. It was just absolutely terrible.
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it, with the McLaren, where there's definite pros and cons to it. As Drew Fletcher has flipped in and out for a second there, but he's back. One person it has helped is Dominic Brennan, because he's all over the back of James Holman, but now he's not got any pressure from a car behind. It's 2 seconds back to Guy Edwards. So Dominic's going to have a little bit more breathing room in that regard. It's broken up that pack of cars, so both of these guys probably feeling a little bit better after that. These are all drivers that we welcome back for this season. Dom was not with us at the end of season 2, was he? It was season 1 where Dom was one of the real driving forces. So Niels Core and James Holman both new for this season. Also, Dom Brennan wasn't with us last season, neither was Guy Edwards. So there really is an influx of newer blood at the front of the field right now. Certainly keeps it exciting in this championship. And I mean, to be fair, we've never had a boring race, have we, in this series? No. There's always something to look at. It's very, very entertaining in this series and continues to be. Time and time again, thanks to the drivers, obviously. Philip Hopley's just overdone it slightly. Still makes the apex of the hairpin. But Andy Marston's going to close in behind, I think, in the McLaren. As, oh dear, I think he's actually had a bit of his nightmare of his own as Kim Such is trying to come through on the left. And Andy says, no, No, you're not, mate. Oh, no, I'm afraid Paul Goffin has had another drama. Paul's having a nightmare. Absolute nightmare of a night, isn't he?
Yeah, it's not been the very best.
Oh,
He's
no.
just misjudging it. Taps onto the grass. I think he was more just doing that to take evasive action to not run into the back of Fausto Pinto. Did the right thing there. It wasn't necessarily just because he misjudged where the car was. It was more, I think, just taking evasive action, which is the right thing to do. Sacrificed himself to keep Fausto going. This could be very intriguing for the championship in terms of the teams, because Dan Macaulay down in 9th, Lewis Ward in 7th, not really making the most of their rival's absence.
No, they're absolutely not at the moment. And Macaulay did just gain that place from Heinz Mayer, who's still going well inside the top 10. Ryan Penny just outside of it as well. It's great to see these drivers that are having a solid night of it. Certainly mixed fortunes amongst the field. No mixed fortunes.
Rob Sutherland's having a great race as well, actually, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's up
9 places.
9 positions. The highest mover in the field. He's doing quite a good job, to be honest. He's just up ahead of Ben Gregory, who's had a moment.
Your commentator's
that?
curse head needs to chill the F out.
I was
Jesus
just,
Christ.
I was interested.
Come on,
I thought
lad.
something might be happening there with all of
Come
this
on, Ed.
battling.
Chill out, mate. It's
of the car.
obvious.
He doesn't touch him.
No.
It was just over-rotate on the exits. I think maybe a little bit too much over the loud pedal or something.
Too much
'cause it's so weird
commentator's
to see
curse,
the
Ed.
car. It's so weird to see the car react like that late on the apex. Usually it happens just as the car's picking up the throttle, but it was very late on the sort of exit of the corner that the car just started to give up.
It's because it heard your commentator's curse head. That's what it
Did.
heard.
It did. I'm very sorry, Ben.
Lewis Ward coming out of the pit lane then. I was just signifying the fact there with the pit lane cameras that he's very, very much on his own in the pit lane, and now he's going to have some clear air. Hopefully, I was going to say a repaired car, but he's got body damage on the right-hand side of the car still, where the side skirt is, so it's definitely not in perfect condition, to say the least. I'm intrigued now to see what he does with the car over this stint.
If you're just joining, you wondering why me and Chaz both made the same sort of noise as he was coming out of the pit lane, it's because that was dangerously close to overstepping that white line. I think his wheels were sort of on top of the line, so that was fine, but as soon as you go past it on that sort of those inside tyres, that's when you get in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. Oliver Carwadine's just lost 2 places to John Roberts and Tom Weston within a couple of seconds. What's happened here to Carwadine? He must have had a slowdown penalty. Yeah, he's pulled over to the left-hand side there and let the guys through. And he continues on.
Similar place to where we saw, who was it earlier on in the race that had that moment? It was one of the boosted cars.
It was, you're right. I think it was John Roberts, wasn't it?
John Roberts, that was it,
yeah. Bit of a nightmare to get those, and I mean, they do kick your head in, and they're very, very
John's
frustrating.
recovered well from it, though, hasn't he? He's up into 14th place into the top 15, and I see chasing down Tom Weston.
Fellow Mercedes driver.
Yeah, Mercedes with a tint of green to the livery. Lovely, lovely Scallop Pro driving car, and then the equally beautiful boosted motorsport car. Both using spec maps wonderfully. It's fair to say, Chaz, with a nice chrome effect on that Scallop Pro driving car. Not one that we see too much of, sadly. Tom Weston doesn't necessarily get involved in most fights, at least here tonight, but it was a great battle between himself and Ben Gregory last time out at Jerez, wasn't it?
Yeah, Tom was alive in that race. It was lovely to see it. But yeah, quite like, I'd say it's more of a satin sort of aluminium. It's like a brushed aluminium effect, isn't it, this one? I really like that. It was designed by Philip Hopley, I believe, as well. Philip doing another fantastic job of this car. John Roberts, I think, actually does the liveries for Boosted himself as well. And again,
If that was Ben Gregory, I think, that does.
I think Ben does some. I think Ben does the Jericho ones like these. And John,
because I know he did my livery for Well GT a few seasons back.
Ah, okay. Yeah, Ben's done liveries since I've known him, to be fair. He's an old friend of mine. Is Ben. We raced together for nearly 8 years now. Actually, no. Oh, my God. I got iRacing in 2014. It's only 10 years I've been on iRacing now. That's terrifying, isn't it? Jesus Christ. Anyway, Pete Thickett is now coming under... Well, I was going to say he's coming under pressure, but he's coming under... He's going to have to install anti-air devices and anti-air guns on the back of that Porsche if Dan McCauley keeps catching that much air over the curves at the last corner. Flipping heck. absolutely skyward. Martin Kenyon comes into the pit lane. Makes his way through now to serve his stop.
Chaz, just noticed something. Nevers Magny-Cours has been caught hand over fist now.
Yes.
By James Holman. Where is all of that time gone?
46.2 last time for James Holman, his best lap of the race. Niles Corr doing 146.3, so yeah, he's definitely not been on the same pace as the race leader. BMW looking a little bit more under threat than it was earlier on. Between these guys, they all have one podium appearance each, actually. Dominic Brennan finishing in, I think he was third somewhere, wasn't he, earlier on in the season? Second at the very first round, actually, for Dominic Brennan. And then after that, we've, of course, had James Holman taking his race win last time out at Jerez. And Niles Corr scoring his only podium in round 3 of the championship at Daytona, where he finished second after a great drive. So these guys have all had their sort of highlight moments so far this season, and Magny-Cours certainly is going to be a potential for another one.
Yeah, Guy Edwards is waiting in the wings as well, a driver that hasn't been on the podium once at all this season, has he, Chaz? But he's going to be in there with a shout. Should his pace continue the way it is, he's just, I think, more nursing the car more than anything else. He knows that it's a marathon, not a sprint. As into the pits comes James Holman, and actually no, not James Holman, it's Niels Corr that comes in. James Holman carries on going. There's only 5 more minutes until you get to that halfway point of the race. Do you think that James Holman has been able to save a little bit of fuel, keep it going, and maybe make it a one-stop? It's the RD Sim Sport car. We know what they're like.
Oh, I don't know. I think he's been in a lot of clear air the whole time, because Niles Corr got very far ahead very early on, and he didn't really have much of a chance to sit with him. I think James Holman here has just been able to find one extra lap out of the Porsche, and that is all it's going to be. I'm not sure we're going to see that much more of a strategy call from him. He's just extending that stint a little bit more
as well. He's going to love being up in second place.
Yeah, very true. He's going to be very happy as well that he's not got Dan McCauley trying to fight all over behind him now, because Dan was getting close at the end of that lap as they come out of the pits. Let's keep our eye on these pit lane exits, shall we? You can see Dan staying very clear of it. Guy Edwards doing the same as well. Christopher Smith, what's he going to do? Yes. All very well behaved. I like this. Nicely done. There's Lewis Ward now behind Rob Sharp as they go down towards Adelaide. Obviously, Rob enters the corner from a wider line, has to get out of it on the exit, but so many people have been in the pits, Ed, and so many people are still in and out of the pits that it's certainly not a given that he can make this much time in terms of one extra lap on the fuel.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be so tricky for the drivers to carry on going. It's obviously good to see that the fuel has been able to last this long around here, because some of the drivers that came in maybe after the first or second lap of running might have been able to save enough fuel to make it work on just one more stop. So they'll essentially be doing the same 2-stop strategy as the rest of the field as James Holman comes into the pits. And this is one that we have to watch out for now, because Niels Corr, does he have traffic? Is he in clear air? Whereabouts is he on the circuit?
He is in clear air. Absolutely in clear air. He's 2.1 seconds ahead of Dominic Brennan now, who is, of course, hoping that James Holman isn't going to be sat right behind him. Or in front of him, I should say. Anyway, James Holman still in the air. He's taking tyres as well. We'll keep our eye out, though, for Niles Corr. Around the final couple of corners, he goes in the BMW. He's done everything right so far, smacking those curbs. Dominic Brennan not smacking it as much. The McLaren can't quite hack it in the same way. James Holman is moving, but Niles Corr's going to go flying past already. Don't forget, they do get up to speed quite quickly here, though, on this pit exit. There is the BMW. What's the gap going to be when it stabilises? And where is Dominic Brennan? There. Well, he's behind the rear wing, I can tell you that. He's there somewhere. I need to work on that camera, I'm sorry. There is Dominic Brennan. And there is Dan McCauley behind them as well. Dan's had another one of these short stops first time round. He's moved himself up into 4th position, only a second behind Dom Brennan. So, subject to no further mistakes from Dan McCauley, he could have really helped himself out there. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. The gap at the front is now 9/10 of a second, and then it's 7/10 back from James Holman to Dominic Brennan. So the fight is once again on at the front of the field in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge.
Yeah, this is the closest company Niels Corr has had for quite some time. Got away very early on at the start of the race on account of all the battling with James Holman and company further back. Used it to great effect, but now pace has just started to slip away from him maybe a touch, as James Holman has I think, revitalised the Porsche, has realised that there isn't much of a fight coming in from behind. They're all content to stay together and, more importantly, work together
Yes.
to close up to the leader of this race. I think maybe in the next few laps you might see a little bit of tussling, a bit of fireworks out there, who knows. But I do know though, because we're currently on board with Paul Goffin, who's chasing down Fausto Pinto. Fausto, who had a very tumultuous race so far, didn't get off to the best start with his qualifying. Look at that, a dive up the inside, gets run almost completely out of road, and then who was that sneaking on through? Oliver Coward. He takes great advantage of all of the battling, gets himself a position for his trouble.
And he's nearly in the points as well on his debut this season, is Oliver Carbadine. He was saying that he was expecting to be at the back. He wanted to make up the numbers for the BMWs as well. So I'm not sure whether he's enjoying the car or not. He's just decided to jump in it and boost the BMW numbers. Speaking of boost, got boosted all over the back of Rob Sutherland right now in the form of John Roberts, who has overtaken Tom Weston on the last couple of laps. Heinz Mayer has come into the pit lane with damage. He did have an off, actually, not long ago. Oh, he's going to just overdo it. Is he into the pit wall? And that's right at the start of the lap, so he's had to do a full lap with that damage. It's a quick recovery, Ed, but unfortunately far from ideal in terms of an overall scenario.
Yeah, definitely not as well. Just before the halfway point of this race means that he'll likely need one extra stop before the day is done, sadly, which has really just had a massive impact on the prospects that he can get for tonight. Could, of course, work in the favour of either Paul Goffin or Oliver Carbadine, who are chasing down points here tonight. Look at this, though. Rob Sutherland, like you say, got boosted all over the back of him as John Roberts is trying to find yet one more position. But Rob's been doing so well. He's been keeping himself out of trouble. He's gained 9 positions. It's not like we've really seen too many of those overtakes from him, though, has he? He's been sort of flying under the radar, but that's usually the best thing to do at a circuit like this, as technical as Magny-Cours. Just keep your nose out of trouble and the positions come to you.
Yeah, that's it. Just have to survive and keep it clean, I guess. James Holman certainly looking like he's going to go under pressure a bit now from Don Brennan as Christopher Smith's off. And who is that off? That's Ben Gregory having a spin. That was completely the other side of the circuit, though. That's amazing that it picked that up, isn't it? If we go to Christopher Smith, you'll hear... Well, Christopher went wide on the way into the chicane, then back out. But listen as it changes camera here. You can hear Ben Gregory having an accident on the other end of the circuit. As, he hits the wall as well afterwards. Big damage.
See how all of that happened as well. I'm not sure if it was just maybe overstepping his marks a little bit. It's again just the car losing traction on the corner exit. It snaps one way. He tries to recorrect it, goes the other way. Then he keeps his foot in it, and I think it just the momentum keeps him going.
I think he was hoping that the rears would spin up and he'd over-rotate back to the right and point in the correct direction. But unfortunately, didn't quite work out like that for Ben Gregory. Fingers crossed that the car isn't too damaged and he can continue on at proper pace, as there's a bit of a battle going on here between Josh Wiggins and Ralph Mayer. Just looked at Drew Fletcher there because the timing screen showed it the other way around for just a moment. But look at these two now, the Mercedes and the Porsche glued to each other on the run down towards Adelaide. Josh Wiggins in the much wider Mercedes, trying to squeeze Ralph to the right-hand side. He's a little bit later on the brakes as Josh has to come over slightly to not hit the grass and blend in with it in the green car. But look at that beautiful line there by Ralph Mayer. Gets the run off the corner. But what can he do down towards Nürburgring? He's going to close the door on the left-hand side, which is all fair in love and war. I was scared by the little tap that Josh Wiggins gave him there. I was scared he was going to give him another one. Very close quarters stuff here from these two. Josh is going to try and send it down the inside. Ralph wants to defend it, but no. Josh gets his nose down the inside. Hard but fair racing, that. Really good stuff from the two of them. You love to see it. Is Ralph going to be able to get a run on the exit now? Is he going to be able to do anything? That squirty little Porsche, which is certainly coming on strong around here this evening. Great racing.
Look at that. It's just about a Mercedes width gap that Josh Wiggins saw and went for. Excellent little bit of racecraft between the pair of them. Because into the pits comes Ryan Penny. Now, there should be enough to take him till the end of the race. Comes to Fausto Pinto in yet more trouble. Just talking about the good race he's had so far, coming up the order, but all of a sudden he's losing those positions that he was fighting so hard to get. We'll have a look now. It's just, again, this corner, catching another driver out. It was about a lap ago when we saw Ben Gregory fall foul. This time, Fausto Pinto struggling.
Yeah, it's just called 180, that corner, and it's a relatively simple name for a corner that definitely isn't simple. It's a really annoying corner. Great scrap between these three at the moment, though, at the front. Oh, God, we've got big dramas. We've got big dramas. Ben Gregory's off in a big way. We've got Mark Johnson off in a big way, and Philip Hopley both off, and that's at the bottom of the hill. That's coming into the final corner. That must have been a colossal accident, that. We'll have to look back at it. This is Ben Gregory getting it wrong at the final corner, into the wall hard, across the front of Oliver Carwadine, and I think that is going to be it for Ben, although no, he has carried on actually after that. But this is what happened with Philip Hopley. Oh my God.
The car's not stopping. He doesn't put the brakes. I'm not sure what's going on. Does the brake pedal just not work?
He's still in the throttle there.
Not
yeah,
putting
the
on
throttle.
any steering now.
No, the throttle was completely wide open there. Absolutely wide open. Listen again. Oh, sorry. That's on board with Mark Johnson. It's a horrible impact. Hopefully, I mean, for Mark's sake, he's not on a direct drive wheel as well, because that was a sickening hit. But listen. Yeah, there's no force feedback there. Look, the wheel's just gone stiff as well as the car's rolled backwards. It's definitely disconnected. So a big technical issue there for Philip Hopley, and a real shame for Mark Johnson.
Just like disconnected and kept whatever his last inputs were going, and
yeah,
it's just keep it straight and keep the foot pinned. Really, really strange incident. But yeah, like you say, hopefully Mark wasn't on direct drive, because that is something that's incredibly dangerous to have, especially just any sort of hit in a car. You really do feel it through your wrists.
Yeah, you absolutely do. So we send our best to Mark Johnson. Hope he's all right. There was more drama actually after that. Heinz Mayer and Fausto Pinto both having a drama here. Is Heinz on the outside? Oh, Fausto's just come across him. I don't think Fausto expected him to get the run that he had, and just avoided by the other two Porsches as well. More of the Orris Racing machines, the green and purple team. But Fausto's race, unfortunately, is sort of unravelled a little bit now. But I was going to go back to this top three, sorry Ed, because we've got a second covering the top three right now, and they're actually coming up on Fausto Pinto as they cross the line.
Yeah, it's great to see as well. They've got, like you say, Fausto Pinto just up ahead. Hopefully he's not going to slow them all down too much and maybe disrupt this fight as Dan McCauley comes into the pits for his final stop. We'll throw him out of sync slightly with, obviously, the likes of his teammate Lewis Ward, who rather had their scheduled pit stops at roughly the same time. But Lewis also did come in slightly earlier than the rest of the field. I would just say that all of the dramas have really benefited Oliver Carwadine on his debut on track for points.
He is up into 18th position. You get points all the way down to 20th. Martin Kenyon's just come in the pits from 10th place. Rob Sutherland has now gained 11 places up into 11th from this race. He's probably hopped over everybody with the amount of air he's taken over that chicane there. But a great drive by Rob this evening. And Oliver Carwadine's actually putting Paul Goffin under pressure for another position as well. So the BMW driver going very well tonight. But at the front, Niles Kaur still up there.
Really having a good time of things is Niels Kaur, currently ahead of James Holman, who's going to be trying to make it 2 on the bounce. But we saw at Daytona, Niels Kaur really did start to come into his own and led for a lot of that race. Let's not forget he was a real standout performer. Had to settle for 2nd place. But now this could be his turn. Take the glory and take the honours. And what a circuit to do it as well. A really technical circuit, one that needs all of a driver's ability and a focus. It's again a real statement that he's here to challenge. Maybe not necessarily for this season's championship, but certainly long into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. He's 26 points off the top spot in the standings at the moment, though, and if he finishes where he is, he'll overtake the man that we're on board with now, actually, Dominic Brennan for Spontex CDM Esports Scourers. Only 1 point between the pair of them, and then they are a good 8 points off Callum Brandt, who is also not here tonight, so they'll get a place on him. They'll get a place on Simon Povey too, because they're 16 points off him. You get 15 points for a race, 25 points for a race victory. And then you get 22 for second, 20 for third. You also get a point for pole position in qualifying, which Niles-Cours has already secured himself. So it's definitely working out for him at the moment. Philip Hopley said his entire PC crashed. So obviously there were certain elements of the setup, like the pedals, that were still putting inputs in, but obviously other ones that weren't getting. They weren't getting shut down, and the wheel obviously did get shut down. So just glad everything's all right, Phil. But sorry to see it. And hats off, you know, he's at least come into the chat to apologise as well to Mark Johnson. As wow, Lewis Ward really throwing everything at this now. Where's Dan McCauley come out, by the way? He is 9th at the moment, so he's still in the top 10. Despite the fact that he's had 2 pit stops, so it's actually not going too badly for Dan, considering he's had 2 pit stops and a spin. But I mean, he's 22 seconds behind Pete Thickett, so I don't know. That tells you that there is still quite the divide in the field, isn't there? There's been a lot of dramas in the lower top 10 and sort of outside of it.
Aaron, do we have time for another Dan McCauley injury update? It's become a regular fixture of the show, so I figured why not? You know, now we've got a little bit of time to focus on him. Has he fallen off his bike at all, or had any more good BMX exploits?
Yes, he sent me a picture last night, just before he went to bed. I was chatting to him in the evening, and he sent me a picture last night of his foot. His right foot is very severely bruised on the right-hand side at the moment. I think he's taken a pedal slap to the side of the foot, as we call it. Either that, or he's just gone down the stairs a little bit too hard. But then again, Dan weighs about as much as my left leg, so I don't think that he's going to put that much pressure on his right foot. Shows me that he's been
fine, Chaz. There's no shame in receiving feet pics from Dan. No shame.
Only Dan's. Anyway, Niles-Cours still leads this race with 1/3 of it left to go. 20 minutes. It's going to feel like a long 20 minutes from where he is, though, isn't it, Ed? With these two behind him.
Oh, absolutely, and especially with the tyres just fading away from him little by little. We know that I think the best car out there is probably the Porsche on its tyres, but to be fair to Dom, he's been keeping this pace going for quite a long time, so whether he's been able to do things to his driving to maybe look after the car a little bit more, he's certainly sticking with them, and we're about at the point where if the car is going to start to fade away, it will become more and more noticeable for Dominic. So it's all about just staying with them and maybe just keeping the pace up to keep within slipstream. And should James Holman and Niles-Cours begin to battle, he's going to be right there to pick up the pieces. He maybe starts to feel that he doesn't have the pace to properly challenge, but definitely has the pace to stay there.
Yeah, that's it. There's a big difference between, of course, being able to put the car in a position and then maintain said pace as well. And that's the thing that we all love watching about these 1 hour long races. You know, it's not a 20-minute sprint where it's all out and out 100% pace. You've got to think about tyre management, fuel management, getting your pit stops right as well. Even just managing the situation of the drivers and the cars that you've got around you at that moment in time. You know, it's all about keeping your head in these sorts of races. And we've got a lot of drivers that are very good at that, and other drivers that sometimes you see them a bit challenged by certain elements of a race. So we've got Lewis Ward into the pits right now. It's just shining a bit of a light on Drew Fletcher there, who's gained 8 places so far in this race. Rob Sutherland has now gained 12, up into 10th. He's got John Roberts right behind him. John's had a really good charge up the order as well, actually. He's gained 9 positions at this moment in time. Great drive by John. And in terms of the pit stops, we'll bring them up on the left-hand side of your screen. You can see there are some drivers that have done both pit stops, but both of these guys are with each other on merit right now. They are both on 1 stop. As it stands, Tom Weston behind them also on 1 stop too. So it's Lewis Ward and Dan McCauley that are the ones now near the front of the order that have done both of their stops. And in terms of the distance between them, it's only 1.7 seconds actually, Ed. So they're closed up closer and closer. And you can see that they are really pushing to use every minute piece of this circuit, aren't they?
Yeah, it's what you have to do, though, on a circuit like this, is to really just open up the corners as much as possible. Take the shortest line through a lot of the sweepers if you can. Sometimes that does involve dipping a wheel over onto the grass. Can maybe have an effect as well to help cool the car off, dipping wheels onto the grass, but not necessarily recommending because it does keep them a little bit slippy as well after the fact, with all the dirt and stuff being kicked onto the circuit. See Paul Goffin just kicking up a little bit of dust in his defence of 16th place with Oliver Carwadine for company.
It's like chasing it in a truck, isn't it?
Yeah, you can just see on board the height differential between his view in the cockpit and the view almost certainly out of cockpit. Oh, Paul Goffin struggling to put the power down again. While it is a strength of the BMW, it's still going to be tricky with the track temperatures as high as they are. For now, he's just, I think, focusing on staying with Paul Goffin. It's dipped below 50 degrees, but as he dives up the inside, he puts his nose there or thereabouts, but isn't quite able to get fully alongside, and Paul Goffin's able to hang on, but it was close, wasn't he, to make that move stick. And I think it's just letting Paul know that he is there and he's going to be there to take advantage if he leaves that door open any wider. Yeah,
there was a bit of hesitation from both of them there. I think Carwadine had the ability to get the car stopped, but then he was like, oh, well, Paul's actually leaving the door open for me there, just in case I go deep. I may as well take advantage of that. Let's see. We've got the Orris Racing Purple machine of Ryan Penny ahead of both of the Orris Racing Green cars, Kim Such and Heinz Mayer. These guys have all done their first pit stops, I'm pretty sure. No, Ryan Penny's done 2. Kim Such is the one that's done 1 pit stop out of these guys. Paul Goffin now into the pits. Somebody was smacking some curbs there as well. I think that was actually the BMW Oliver Carwadine. But at the front, there's still no more than a second between Niles Corr and James Holman for first and second. Dominic Brennan has had a bit of a masterstroke here, I think. He's sitting behind James when he's not blinking. His missus must be on Netflix again. But right now, Dom's in the perfect place because he can save a bit of fuel, and all this is going to do is mean that his last pit stop is going to be shorter. So whether he can hold off these guys in the last couple of laps is going to be the main difference, I think, if he can jump ahead of them in the pits. Because like I say, it's only a second and a bit between all 3 of them.
Yeah, there's not a huge amount of time, is there? Like you say, covers them, but I think for me, it's just going to come down to Niles Corr and James Holman battling, and if Dominic Brennan can take advantage, because while he's got the pace there, I think when it comes to a case of car versus car and the amount of grip they've all got, if Dominic Brennan is to go for a fight, I'm not sure if he's going to have the tyres with him to make the move stick. So he's probably there just to sit opportunistically rather than to necessarily put James Holman under any real pressure and concern about losing second place.
Yeah, you need to be careful, don't you, Sid? Not overdo it in these scenarios, though. You'll have something come your way, and even if Niles makes a little mistake, it's going to be so easy for James to overdo it himself. We've seen it 1,000,001 times between us, Ed, where the car in front will make a mistake and the car following will also make a mistake in sort of reaction to what they've done. So, yeah, you've really got to be switched on in terms of watching what the car ahead is doing, but not sort of falling prey to it, let's say. Lewis Ward, by the way, has done a purple Sector 2 on this current lap. On his previous lap, I should say. So he's on ultimate pace right now, doing 46.2. That's 1.1 seconds faster than Pete Thickett, who he's chasing. And that's half a second faster than just about everybody, although Niles Corr actually was a 10th quicker on that previous lap. Pete Thickett is going well, though, in the Scuderia Chicken House car. Started 8th on the grid. He's moved up 1 place into 7th. It's not very difficult maths, everybody. But Pete has made a very solid return to the series, I have to say, Ed. It's nice to see that. He's one of the newcomers for this season. And unfortunately, his teammate, the designer of these cars, not with us this week. But we hope to see Blaine again very, very soon, as the battle between Oliver Carwadine and John Roberts is now hotting up as well.
Yeah, it's been excellent to see. He's still got that pace beneath him. I'm just so intrigued to see what's going to be happening out in front, because BMW goes so strong, but I didn't expect it to be as good on tyres that Niles Corr is showing it to be. I mean, he's actually been able to pull away from James Holman for a few laps, but I'm just amazed that Niles has been able to keep it going. And I mean, if he's able to take this race victory, it'll be thoroughly deserved, and it'll be, actually, to be fair, a very dominant performance as well, considering he's got pole position, and I'm fairly certain he's led nearly every single lap, besides obviously with the pit stops.
Yeah, he absolutely has. He's been a solid force at the front of the order. 12 minutes to go, and he's suddenly turned the taps on again now. The guys behind have done their best laps, both of them on the previous lap. A 46.06 for Dom Brennan and a 146.1 for James Holman, while Niles Corr did a 46.3. But this lap, he's going a lot quicker than the pair of them. Rob Sutherland's on his way out of the pits. Tom Weston is in the pits. Oliver Carwadine also making his way in. I think we're going to see at least one of these guys pit in the next lap or so here. because they're not going to be able to make it much further than this. I think James Holman will do the same again and go 1 lap longer. Maybe Dom Brennan could go a lap longer and have a shorter stop. I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see. There's a bit of movement in the middle of the field as Josh Wiggins is blinking in and out, unfortunately. But still, it could all come unravel for anybody in these last moments. We've got Rob Sharp doing his usual, i.e. doing very well near the front of the field, just under the radar again. Same with Christopher Smith too. Christopher's working that BMW as he so often does, but he's just got it in the right place at the right time again for solid championship points.
Yeah, that's what it'll come down to, isn't it? It's just being in those spaces when it counts to get those points on the board. And I say it always important, and it could be something you look back later on in the season and think that was a really pivotal moment in my championship fight. And it's just these little moments that when they happen, you don't necessarily appreciate how important they are until obviously you look back later on, and if you miss it out by say 1 or 2 points, then you'll start to think of, oh, if I did this, if I did that. Obviously if you win by a few points, then you think, oh, because I did this, because of this one thing that happened, I got that. It's all just something that the drivers do look back on. Maybe we'll focus on, obviously, is where the experience comes into, where we see a lot of the drivers that have raced in this championship before gotten off to quite decent starts, to be fair, and now we're starting to see a lot of the newcomers really find their footing, which is great to see as well.
Yeah, definitely. We love to see that sort of progression in a championship where a driver gets quicker and quicker all the time and starts challenging other drivers that maybe at the start of the season they weren't quite on the same level as. We've got a couple of retirements so far from this race, unfortunately. Ben Gregory, Philip Hopley, Mark Johnson and Jakub Szymanski all out of the race, out of our 27 car field, as here come the leaders, as yes, as expected, Holman and Brennan both carry on. So Niles Court into the pits, Guy Edwards also in. He's been in a lot of clear air, so he's not had a chance to save fuel. What about Christopher Smith and Rob Sharp? Will they also come in this lap? Yes, they will, both of them in. So James Holman and Dominic Brennan, front of the pack, hoping to break away, I'm sure. But now it's going to be James Holman on maximum attack for this lap, Ed, because this is technically going to be his in lap. I'm not sure if Dom Brennan will have another lap in him. I don't think he'll have that much.
I'm not sure if he does, but it could still be important. Let's not forget as well that the extra lap that was done by the drivers around on, we sort of referred to as the pace lap, is also taken away from their opening stint. So it's made it essentially in race conditions shorter than it maybe could have been. So if we can see James Holman with that level of pace and maybe able to save the fuel, this could be important, but obviously he'll have a shorter final stop, and that might be enough, you say, to leapfrog Niels Court and get into the lead of the race.
Andy Marston, the boss man, is on his way into the pit lane. A quick word as well to say thanks to our sponsors of the championship: Orris Digital, Crockery Direct, Blinds to Go, Derbyshire Holiday Homes and Mydas Simulations, all doing a wonderful job of supporting the series and everything we do here at Sim Racing Magazine and Chaz Draycott Media. God, I can't even say my own name. But we thank them, of course, for making all of this possible. It's great to have everybody all as one part of a big unit here at Sim Racing Magazine. Let's keep our eye on James Holman then. He's going to carry on for another lap as Dom Brennan comes in. That is not the way round I expected to see this, Ed. I thought James Holman was going to come in and Dom was going to carry on. That is very interesting, because that means James Holman could certainly jump Niles Court here with how much less fuel he's got to take at this next stop.
Yeah, but obviously with the traffic, that could play into Niels Court's hands. He's just currently in a little bit of position here in between Heinz Meyer. I think Heinz is going to go wide. Yep, here we go, and lets James through. So if anything, that's actually helped out James with a bit more slipstream, a bit more fuel saving as well. Let's not forget, James Holman, he went a lap longer, even though he didn't really have any slipstream. He was in clear air for a lot of the time, but still was able to go a lot longer than Niels Court. And now, obviously, for basically his whole second stint, he had Niels Court less than a second up the road from him. This could be very pivotal for the completion of the race. If he's able to obviously take a splash and dash, it'll be very short. If not, then he'll be able to go till the end of the race. He's got so much time to play with if he needs to obviously bleed off a little bit of time to make it last. He's got 23 seconds to muck about with. But is he going to do that? Or is he just going to think, I've saved enough fuel regardless of needing a splash and dash? So he's in behind now, Ryan Penny. That's going to slow him up a right treat.
Ryan moves out of the way to the right-hand side, just signifying on the left there, by the way, that pretty much everybody has done 2 stops. And again, we see another car, Ed, that doesn't really back out of it until the last minute. You've got a long time down there to back out of a move. And we've seen a few times so far this season, haven't we, where drivers will sit alongside a car lapping them and not slow down as early as possible. They'll leave it right to the death, and it's a bit difficult to manage.
I think, yeah, a lot of the time they leave it until the braking zone, when really you want to be knowing where you stand in the braking zones, being if you're, say, the slower car or the car ahead. As here we go, Niels Kor coming up towards the final chicane. James Holman has gotten moving, so this could be very close. Look at him attacking the curbs. And already James Holman is up and rolling. He's on the pit exit. Niels Kor is going to be out into second place.
Yeah, James Holman is going to be absolutely gone there. Look at that. Fantastic stuff by James. He's really made the strategy work for him at this point of the race. And Don Brennan is another 4 seconds back from Niels Kor. He's stuck behind a car right now as well. Who's that? That's Kim Such as he laps him. So James Holman jumps forward into the lead of the race. He's technically not led a single lap, really, when it's all been, well, outside of pit windows, let's say. So James Holman now leads again for RD Simsport, snatching it right from under the nose of Niels Kor. But we know that Niels has had such incredible pace tonight. He's going to have to push like mad now, Ed, because he's got 2 seconds to close down in 5 minutes. Let's see.
Yeah, Niels Kor has been incredibly quick so far. Obviously, the fastest lap of the race is currently held by this man that we're watching as well. The German driver doing so good behind the wheel of his BMW, but it needs to do a little bit more. Look at how much he's pushing on the exit there. Almost 4-wheel sliding it out of the, I think, is it 180?
Yes.
That corner there. Such a difficult part of the circuit as well, where so many drivers have been caught out, but he's pushing so hard and trying to close that gap down.
He's actually lost time.
He has. I think he's just pushing too hard.
Yeah.
That is the thing, obviously, that some drivers can do, is if they're seeing themselves dropping away from a fight as well. Though James has had the benefit of going into the pits, and it's actually helped him a lot with his tyres, because it cools them down, obviously, because you're not moving, you're stationary. It gets a lot of that heat sort of radiating off of the rubber, and then allows him to then go out with slightly cooler tyres, and that helps him obviously get them obviously probably closer to the window of where they should be, rather than running close to about 100 odd degrees or whatever they're at.
Yeah, completely does. As Rob Sharp continues his chase of the other BMW inside the top 10, Christopher Smith. Oliver Carwadine in the third of the BMWs, still going very well. Rob Sutherland still having his good run through the order, 10 places gained. Same for, oh dearie me, that's John Roberts off. John Roberts off hard into the wall. John was having a great run through. I was just about to cover this. 7 places gained so far for John Roberts. Hopefully that's not a meatball flag, as they call it. Black flag with an orange dot to say your car is too damaged to continue. Please go and fix it. Well, that was a strange one for John Roberts.
That was a vicious curse, that was. That was before you even said it. You thought it and it happened.
Well, I was going to say Josh Wiggins as well. For it all? I was going to say Josh Wiggins was having a belter, but he's just had to do his 3rd stop of the race for some reason. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. You complain at me, Chaz. I know, it's bad, that, isn't it? Let's have a look what happened to John. Is he just going to clip the Astro and go left? Oh, it just overcorrects. Yeah. It just, from a distance, it looked like he just wasn't even turning right at all. But, yeah, it just loses the rear end, overcorrects. Josh Wiggins now comes out of the pits. John Roberts has been able to continue, which is really good news. Andy Marston there behind him is a lap down, so he doesn't have to worry directly about that. He's got 11 seconds over Ryan Penny, so with 2.5 minutes left, he'll be all right.
Ryan Penny's in the pits as well, so that's even more. It's not Ryan Penny, sorry, it's Heinz Meyer that's coming into the pits. My mistake.
Heinz was going really well earlier, unfortunately, as well, so he's lost a lot of places.
Now Ralph's been able to overtake him, as has Paul Goffin. As will maybe, not Kim Such. Kim Such is going right back again. It's going to be the Myers, just with Paul Goffin in amongst them.
The lead gap, by the way, 4 seconds. James Holman has absolutely disappeared. And it's not been in like a huge chunk either, because it was only 0.2 of a second different last time round. So he's just been eking out that gap as James Holman. Now that he's saved all the fuel, he's just ragging this thing to the end. Niels Kor's gained on him by about 1/10 and a bit in the first lap. And Dominic Brennan has closed on the pair of them. actually. He was a little bit slower on the previous lap, but at the start of this one, he's reeling them in again. So there's a big yo-yo effect going on here. Guy Edwards still going well in 4th position. Lewis Ward has recovered to 5th. Christopher Smith 6th. Rob Sharp 7th. Dan McCauley 8th. Pete Thickett is in 9th place. And Martin Kenyon is inside the top 10 after starting 15th. He's having a really good run. Josh Wiggins is for position behind him as well. He's gained 7 spots. And then Rob Sutherland, RD Simsport boss and teammate of Josh Wiggins for this season, has gained 10 places. Great stuff. So it's a black and green car that you want to be in, because Wiggins and Roberts have gained 7 each. They're in black and green Mercedes. And Rob Sutherland's in a black and green Aston Martin, and he's gained 10. So GG. Drew Fletcher as well,
Maybe not if you're Tom Weston, though.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Tom Weston's lost 7 places.
Maybe not Tom Weston. He's sadly not been having the greatest time with things. I'm not actually sure if we saw what happened to that car, because it looked like it was doing all right in a battle, wasn't it, with John Roberts earlier. Not sure if we missed what happened to the Scallop Pro driving number 10.
He had a very long pit stop, 51 seconds.
Oh.
So I'm not sure if he got done for speeding or something. Yeah. Thank you, by the way, to Hugh Hattrick, who's donated £2 to the stream, saying, have an ice cream at the Festival of Speed on me. Unfortunately, Hugh, I'm not going to Festival of Speed, I'm afraid. I'm going to be heading to the Nürburgring on Thursday morning to go to the ADAC International Truck Grand Prix, which is partnered up with the ADAC GT Masters Championship. I'm commentating on the European Truck Racing Championship there, and I'm super excited because on Thursday afternoon, I can happily say I'm going to be going around the Nürburgring, not the Nordschleife, I'm going to be going around the Grand Prix circuit as a passenger in one of the race trucks, and it's 1,200 horsepower, 6,000 newton meters of torque, and it weighs 5.5 tons, and it does 20 to 100 miles an hour in the same time as a Porsche 911 GT3 RS. I cannot wait, Ed. I'm going to absolutely, well, it's not broadcastable what I'm going to do. I'm going to scream a lot.
Yeah, but then you can treat yourself now to an ice cream when you get to the Nürburgring.
Yes, I absolutely will. Thank you, Hugh. That is my point. Thank you very much, mate. Big appreciation for that.
So we have now big appreciation for this man, don't we?
Nice.
James Holman, who's done absolutely everything to perfection. He's maybe not led every single lap, but he's put himself in the prime positions to lead when it counts, which is this, the final lap of the race. He's got a 4-second gap near enough to Niels Kaur, who, I mean, heart goes out to him. He's done so much hard work here tonight, pushing hard, put it on pole position, led nearly every single lap, but it was just down to strategy, and he wasn't quite able to put it off. The pace is there, and it's going to be a matter of time before he gets his first race victory, but still, another second place is going to be a real sign that he's a promising talent in this championship and one to watch out for when he has a few more races underneath his belt.
Ryan Penny's just come into the pits on the final few moments of the race, which is going to change things further down. But out of the final corner, it's 2 in a row for James Holman and RD Simsport as he wins a Magny-Cours in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Niles Kaur takes a very well-deserved second place, big championship points. Dominic Brennan gets a podium. Great drive from him for Sponsex CDM Esports Scourers. That's going to help them in the Teams Championship with Simon Povey not being here. Guy Edwards is going to finish 4th. Lewis Ward in 5th place. That's going to really help his championship fight, even though it wasn't the perfect race from his side. Christopher Smith next up ahead of Rob Sharp. And then Dan McCauley, after his early spin and a good bit of pit stop strategy, recovers into 8th place. Then it's Pete Thickett. And what about Martin Kenyon? Can Martin Kenyon hold on for the top 10 here? And he's got Josh Wiggins all over the back of him in that Mercedes. Quite literally at the moment. Oh, Josh!
No, it's all over the back and inside the back. And oh my word, Josh Wiggins, he's just overcooked it, pushing too hard through the chicane, goes into the back, doesn't leave enough room. And unfortunately, is he going to lose out now to, I say, his team boss, who's not going to be pleased to see his teammate having a spin, chasing down 10th place. But Martin Kenyon, he's worked so hard all race long, and that Aston Martin is not the car to be in. So it's great to see him drag it up into a 10th place finish. Brilliant drive there by Martin.
Very well done. Great drive that by Martin Kenyon, and a great drive as well by Rob Sutherland. 10 places gained. Same also for John Roberts. Overcooks it a little bit at the end of the race there, but he's not going to care. That's 7 places gained and some good championship points. Thank you very much, he says. Also to championship sponsor Drew Fletcher. He's had a lot of poor luck recently in the series, a lot of incidents and so on. But as he comes around the final corner, he's going to have gained 9 places into 14th. Oliver Cowardine makes it flamboyant at the end, and on his debut gets points. 6 places gained for him as well. A very, very feel-good race, I have to say, Ed. That was supremely entertaining once more from the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. But what a win by James Holman, what a drive by Niles Kaur, and another podium for Dominic Brennan.
Yeah, excellent stuff for all of them. Like you say, Chaz, I think you said actually that they've only had one podium. Each driver has had a trip to the podium once. Well, now they'll each have 2 trips to the podium.
I like your maths.
Excellent stuff for all of them there, though, isn't it? James Holman, like you say, makes it 2 on the bounce now as well. A brilliant performance from him off the back of Jerez. He seems to like it when it's hot.
Yeah, there's not many drivers that have ever done 2 on the bounce, actually, in this series. Callum Brandt did it at the start of this season. Now, of course, James Holman has done it as well. Looking back at previous results, we've had... Oh, Lewis Ward did it twice. Actually, it's quite funny. Lewis Ward did it twice last season, and also Simon Povey did it twice last season as well. for the last... I know it wasn't actually the last sort of 8 races, but yeah, over 9 races, those 2 kept doing 2 on the bounce each. And then going back to season 1, I think there was a couple of times where either you or Simon did 2 on the bounce as well, actually.
I think I managed to get 3 in a row, because I'm just looking now. We've got a little trophy cabinet, which is something you've put together, Chaz, which I absolutely love. But it was round 3, 4, and 5 of season 1.
It was as well, you little show off. Behind, actually, after that, who was car 117? That was Simon. He did.
Oh, Simon.
Simon did
because
4.
I was the 107 and he was 117.
Simon's done 4 on the bounce, Ed. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I'll take that. I'll take having 3 on the bounce.
Oh, absolutely. But then again, you know,
let me have something to be happy about.
That cements it, though, everybody. You know, that's what we're very happy about, is the fact that we have a driver that's done as well in this championship as Ed, that is in here in the commentary box, showing his expertise as well, and of course joining me and making me sound like I know what I'm on about. James Holman takes the race victory, 2nd time on the bounce. Very well done to him. Niles Core, I'm actually devastated for Niles, because while 2nd place is great for the championship, if anyone other than James deserved that race win, it was Niles, because he was leading almost every lap there. But well done still to the Chicane Online racing driver. Dominic Brennan with another strong podium and some big championship points. Guy Edwards, a great 4th place. Same 2 to Lewis Ward. He needed those points tonight while his rivals aren't here. Christopher Smith, big points for RD Simsport 2. And then Rob Sharp behind him, again under the radar, with his countryman Dan McCauley behind in 8th. Scuderia Chicken House's Pete Thickett makes a good return to the series in 9th. And Martin Kenyon gets a top 10. Very well done to Martin. Great drive. Josh Wiggins and his teammate Rob Sutherland, good points for them in 11th and 12th. Ahead of John Roberts, another great drive from him. And Drew Fletcher, 13th and 14th. And then it's Oliver Carwadine and Ralph Mayer, Paul Goffin and Ryan Penny down there in 18th. He won't be too pleased with that after how well the night started for him. Heinz Mayer also actually just inside the points. Kim Such gets the last point scoring place. Tom Weston and his teammate Fausto Pinto were just outside the top 20. Andy Marston was the last finishing car, 1 lap down. And then Ben Gregory, Philip Hopley, Mark Johnson and Jakub Szymanski miss out on a finish, unfortunately. John Roberts has mentioned that Ben actually gets the credit for his paint. He was too busy with work to get around to it. And he says he's better than him. Don't put yourself down, John. You do very good liveries, my friend. But still, at least we know now. So thank you to Ben Gregory for that wonderful livery. And apologies, Ben, for saying that it wasn't you in the first place. Still.
I know it was Ben. I know a Ben paint when I see one.
Well, at least you know. I don't. I'm an idiot.
There we go. No, he's a good painter. And I think he's actually did a lot of work for, I think, the F1 game as well, when he was... working over at Cody's. I think he did a few of the liveries for that game, if memory serves right.
Ah, right. I did not know that. I absolutely did not. We're going to have a chat, though, with our race winner. No, not Dominic Brennan, sorry. It's James Holman that joins us in the box. James, 2 on the bounce, mate. Not many drivers have done that. Ed and I have just made the point there. I think there's only 4 drivers that have ever done it in this series, so very well done. You must be over the moon. He's that over the moon. He's speechless. James?
Wasn't expecting the Porsche to be quite as competitive as.
Oh, I think your internet's going a bit dodgy there, Sunshine. There was a big delay on that. Try again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Oh, now we can't.
Yeah, no. I wasn't.
I'm really sorry, James. There's a humongous delay on it.
Want to try someone else and I'll see you.
Yeah, I was going to say if you want to try and we'll try someone else and then we'll drag you back in a second, buddy. Sorry. There we go, though. Unfortunately, a big drop out there for James Holman. Now, typically, Discord has done a thing recently. This is a bit full disclosure for everybody, but Discord's changed something recently within the privacy settings. So when you are streaming with a software like OBS open, which we use to stream here, it blocks out people's names on Discord unless you are friends with them. So the next driver up, I've just had to go and search for who it was, but I found out that it is Guy Edwards that's going to join us in the commentary box next up. Guy finished 4th in that race, not far off the podium this time, Guy. Another solid points finish. Must be pretty pleased with that, because it didn't look easy.
Yeah, it was a good one. Took me by surprise. So a few things going on at home, which meant I managed to jump in the car with about just enough time to get around to do one flying quali lap. So bit of pressure. So that was quite nice. Managing to get it kind of fairly high up the field, enough to make a bit of a race of it. So yeah, it was good fun.
And what was it like around the circuit? Because not only is Magny-Cours very difficult, the track temperatures were almost the same as Jerez tonight as well. So that didn't make life easy, I imagine.
Yeah, it was a bit slippery to say the least, but and especially around this track where you've really got to make the most of the fast chicanes and the curbs, and it's a pretty balancing act trying to get that right. And we made it a challenge, and it's though it's a bit of a Marmite course. You either love it or hate it, and I'll love it tonight. I'll take that one.
Well, you've been very consistent in scoring in the points so far this season. 52 points before this round, and I mean your worst score is 10 points at a race, which is still a good score. Are you reckoning that you'll get that podium before the season is out?
Oh, that's the plan. But what I lack in talent, I got to make up with a bit of practice. So yeah, thanks to the RD Simsport guys, we do a few sessions during the week together to try and figure it all out. And I think that kind of shows when it actually comes to race day. We tend to kind of then generally put it all together. So yeah, if I can knock James off his perch and Callum when he can join us again, it's a shame he couldn't make it tonight. Then that's the plan.
Well, it's been great to watch you, Guy, and obviously next time round we come back to home soil in the form of Donington Park. Are you looking forward to that one?
Yes and no. I think it's yes, just because obviously it's great to be part of this series, and thanks to you and Ed for the great team, and Andy. So yeah, it's great to be part of it. It's not my strongest track, I'm not going to lie. So I have to do a few sessions before that one, but it's an interesting one, and I think it'll definitely make for a good race, that's for sure. So yeah, should be good.
Well, we look forward to it, mate. Anyone else you want to thank before you go?
Just the guys at RD Simsport, really, and yeah, it's like a great job, especially Rob organising everything as always, and also to my 2 kids who've managed to stay asleep for the whole session and not wake up. I've had one eye on the baby monitor, one eye on the monitor in front of me, so yeah, big thanks to them.
Love that guy. I know the feeling. Fair play, mate. Well, great to speak to you, buddy. Well done again, and we'll see you in a week's time at Donington.
Will do. Cheers, Chaz.
Cheers.
Bye.
Great stuff from Guy Edwards there. Again, one of the drivers that's been under the radar this season, Ed, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, is it really? Because he's not been the boisterous one that's making all the big moves, having contact with people and the most drama. He's just been scoring points, and it's so important in a championship as close as this.
Yeah, it's so crucial to have that level of consistency, and it's something that he's had in absolute droves, and it's, like you say, great to see him have those results, but just shy, I think, of his first podium, but promise is there, the pace is there. It's just about the stars aligning for him more than anything else.
Yeah, it really is. And we, of course, have another driver that we know we'll be hoping that the stars will align for at some point soon. Dan McCauley, another recovery drive this evening after the spin that we're just catching the back end of now in slow motion. Dan, I've told everybody your excuse with your right foot tonight, but what happened in the spin? That looked more like a downshift issue.
It was just lack of practice, to be honest. So I started the race further forward than the bias, and literally as I came into that corner I was like, I'm going to go back to what I qualified on, and the tyres were just too cold, and round it went. Total rookie error. I think I need L plates on the back of the car for next round.
Well, it's one of those circuits, isn't it, though? It's very difficult, and obviously with the track temperatures we've got out here tonight, it was over 50 degrees near the start of the race. It's almost like it was at Jerez last week, so the cars really just didn't like it, did they? They don't really do well in hot temperatures.
Nah, especially the McLaren. It's it tends to, if the track's hot, it just melts the tyres, but for some reason it kind of hung on to them through the middle of the race tonight. The only problem is the slowdowns here are so unforgiving, like a millimetre too far and you get a 2.5 second slowdown, so I think I must have wasted 25 seconds worth of that race in a slowdown, which is annoying as well.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's not a circuit that's kind to people in terms of off-tracks or slowdown penalties either, so fingers crossed next time out it goes better. We're at Donington Park, back on home soil. Are you looking forward to that one? Do you reckon they'll go well around there?
No. I think the high-speed corners, this car doesn't like it. Just the weight getting shifted to the front just kills the tyres, and it's an absolute nightmare. I think it's going to be another one of those tracks that throws up a surprise winner again, because I think these last 2 races have really showed off the BOP. Tonight, the BMW was absolutely insane. It could take any curb you wanted. and get away with it. The Porsche seems to just be a great all-rounder, and I think James's car's a plug-in hybrid for the little fuel that thing uses. It seems to be that after the pit stop he always comes out with a mental gap, so a fair play to him for that one. But yeah, I do think Donington's going to be another interesting one, with all the cars at the front being pretty close. The McLaren could have it on one lap speed again, but I don't think it's going to be enough to last the race through there.
Well, we're certainly looking forward to it. Ed and I both love Donington Park, and we know that it's going to be a bit of a dramatic race because of how high speed that place is. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before you go?
Huge shout out to James for winning again. That's pretty mega. And massive shout out to Lewis. I wouldn't have been racing tonight if it wasn't for him. So big thanks to that man.
Beautiful stuff, Dan. Great to speak to you as ever, mate. Thank you for your insight, and best of luck before Donington, and don't go hurting yourself again.
I'll try not. Catch you in a bit.
Dan there with his injured right foot. We'll move very quickly on though, Ed, because what I want, mate, is for you to take it away with our race winner, second time on the bounce, James Holman.
Oh dear, you're asking the two people with the worst internet to have a chat to each other. We'll see if this will work out fine. How do you do, James? Can you hear us?
Two bad connections make one good one, I hope.
Oh, well, it seems to be fine now, and congratulations, mate. 2 on the bounce. It's something that very few drivers have been able to win one race, let alone 2 in a row. Surely you must be thinking, can you make it 3?
Yeah, never take anything for granted in this series. Every win is a win well earned, I think. I know we've only made 5 starts or 4 starts or whatever it is, and I've won 2 of them, so that's a good strike rate. But yeah, no, it was a great race. Yeah, I didn't have the pace of Niels. I really struggled with the tyres in the first stint, picking up a load of understeer for some reason, and was just trying to hang on. And then thankfully he had a slowdown, I think, towards the end of the stint, and it brought me right back into play. And thankfully the Porsche was sipping its fuel nicely. Wasn't being too aggressive. So yeah, we got there in the end, and it was nice to come out of the pits there with a couple of seconds, and then I think Niels had another slowdown, so it just sort of took the pressure right off then. I was a bit worried that Niels would catch me because, as I say, he's been lightning fast all night, and congratulations to him. And obviously Dominic was up my chuff the whole race, so yeah, he was having a great race as well. So yeah, it was a tough race, but I'm really happy to get the win.
I know we joked about it last time, that obviously you were towing me around at Daytona, you suddenly saw a lot of pace come your way, and then obviously with the victory at the next time out. But what do you actually put this sort of resurgence down to? Because you've got a lot of pace all of a sudden, and it's great to see. But do you think it's just down to experience behind the car, or is it maybe just the factor of the tracks being a bit more favourable for you?
I've barely driven a GT4 before entering the series, so I've done maybe 1 or 2 officials, and that's about it. So I'm just picking up experience with the car all the time. I wanted to choose a different car. I wanted to choose the Porsche. I was thinking Aston Martin Porsche. I was thinking one of the cars that hadn't been up the front for much in previous seasons. Yeah, I'm happy with my choice. It's been a good car, and just I think goes to show that, if you can, any car I think can win in this series. I think even I know the Aston's sort of struggling a little bit, but Rob had a great result there, coming from 22nd to 12th there, I see. So and Martin was in the top 10 as well by the looks of it. So like the Astons are coming better, I think. It's just about how you drive them, and yeah, I'm certainly learning more and more, and I'm delighted to be able to sort of compete at the front. And these are some very fast drivers in the series, so they seem to drive these cars a lot. So I'm happy.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's not over yet in terms of the championship. There's still an avenue back for you to get in the mix and to try and win it. Obviously, we go to a familiar circuit for yourself, Donington Park. Is that one that you think might be suited to you and the Porsche?
Possibly. The real long fast corners it struggles with, but the shorter, it's sort of the mid, like Jerez was perfect for the car. Here I thought the first sector I couldn't do anything compared to Niels. I was losing 0.2, 0.3 every lap, and I was just hanging on. So yeah, I don't know. Will I get running really? To be honest, I don't know. Hopefully, all I want to do the rest of the season is just try and have as many good results, and hopefully, I was really over the moon last week. I'm obviously over the moon this week, but it was much more. I was kind of expecting it a bit more last week with the pace around Jerez. I wasn't sure what to expect this week, so to win, obviously there's a couple of top drivers missing in Simon and Cal, so I'm pretty sure if they'd been here, it might have been a different story. But yeah, I mean, yeah, to get back into the championship, I'm probably going to need Lewis to have a couple more races like he did tonight. So yeah, because he's a phenomenal driver as well. So we'll see how we go, but I'm delighted anyway to hopefully I think it puts me second in the championship even now, so or maybe third, maybe behind Dominic. But anyway, we'll see. I'll wait for Chaz's input on that. So yeah, no, from the team's point of view as well, that's another, another thing keeps the points rolling in that.
Yeah, definitely, and obviously the team's championship, you could be right there with obviously Callum Brandt. Hopefully we see him next time out as well, so the pair of you can start fighting for that championship. But before we say goodbye to you, mate, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out on the broadcast, bud?
Thank you to my suffering wife who's sitting downstairs with no Netflix this week, and maybe that's why the internet buffed out. She flicked it on as soon as the race finished, and my mum's watching at home, so and friends and family, whoever's watching, and obviously again to you guys, great broadcast again. Look forward to watching it back.
No worries. Thank you very much, mate, and all the best next time out.
One more as well, obviously the team. Like, how can I forget the team? Guy did a great job there with virtually no practice tonight, so yeah, fair play to him, and Josh had very limited running, and Rob as well. So they've done really well to get into the top 12 as well. So no, good. Chris obviously in 6th as well. So that's a great team night all around. So yeah, very happy.
Excellent stuff, mate. Well, all the very best, and we'll wish you every luck in the world for next time out, because Donington Park, it's certainly a tricky circuit. Take care though, mate.
Thank you. Let's hope for a hat trick, huh?
Yeah, fingers crossed for you, buddy. Fingers crossed. It'd be so great to see, wouldn't it? Yet another hat trick, Chaz. It's like you said, something that we haven't seen too often, so it's a special occasion when it does.
Absolutely. I'm sorry if I sounded like an absolute idiot then. I just bit my own lip really, really hard, and I've got blood all over my face. But still, a very entertaining night in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge once again. James Holman joins an elite club of drivers, not that I'm trying to blow too much smoke up your backside, Ed, of drivers that have done 2 race wins on the bounce at least. And well, it was certainly not one that we fully expected, not by that distance anyway, but hats off to Niles Core for such a great performance tonight, and Dominic Brennan as well, and a number of drivers further down the order that scored their biggest points of the season so far. It's been another very entertaining race, though. We've really loved it here on Chaz Draycott Media. Thank you to all the drivers, everybody that's been viewing, of course, as well. And thank you to all of the championship sponsors, which we're grateful to have on board. That is Orris Digital, Crockery Direct, Blinds to Go, Derbyshire Holiday Homes, and Mydas Simulations. That's all from us this week, though, on Chaz Draycott Media for the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. We'll be back in a week's time at Donington Park, where we hope to see you there as well, everybody. But for now, enjoy the rest of your night, and we'll see you again very, very soon. 4 French drivers at the French Grand Prix trying to win this on the final lap. They're 3 wide again. Guillaume down the inside. Guillaume moves across. They're both in front of Milan and Pouget.
But before you know it, we find ourselves here in the very final race of the competition.
And then they see truck racing and they think, this is crazy. These are 5-ton machines, 1,200 horsepower brake.
Oh, look at that switchback. Oh, you can look and a drift is going off. Ben Gregory now, I love this. 10.5 minutes gone. Senna Lanson tries to go for the race lead.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.